Welcome to the Wakefield Doctrine, the theory of Clark, Scotts, and Rogers. This is a video Friday on a Monday. And the reason for doing this is I've got a story to tell everyone from the weekend, an experience relating directly to the Wakefield Doctrine and all. So what's happening here is I'm working on the book with a collaborator. Her name is Lisa. She's a professional in the human services field. And so we've been collaborating on the book, the Wakefield Doctrine book, for the last couple of months. One of the things we started doing is meeting once a week at a local restaurant so that we can go over what we've passed back and forth in the course of the week as far as material and editing and that kind of thing. The in-person thing helps a lot. So we always go to the same restaurant, and it's a smaller restaurant, very open floor plan. Important to the story. So that, usual seats in the corner. There are plate glass windows that look out on a front lawn, which have two tables for outside dining. The kitchen is open to the dining area, and the door is all open. So it's a small place, but you can sit and see everybody who comes in, everybody who's eating, everybody who goes outside to eat, and the cook, Sean, is the cook and the owner of the restaurant. So we're there this Saturday, going over the last things we're editing and struggling with defining jobs by aptitude relative to Clark, Scotts, and Rogers. Well, anyway, in walks four girls as a group of friends. And it's high school, senior, 17, 18 years old, that kind of demographic. Anyway, they walk in. Clearly they've been there before. They greet Sean, who's back at the grill, and they stand around and do whatever high school girls do in a restaurant. They mill about and talk and chatter. Mid-sentence with Lisa, I'm totally stopping, saying, "Oh man, here's some practicum," as they say in college. We've got a situation here where we've got to try and apply the doctrine. Let's see how it works in the real world. There they are. Let's apply it. So we're sitting there. I'm trying to figure out who the heck the Scott is first. I tend to go for that. Everybody has their own preference. And the easiest thing about Scots is the eyes, the gaze. Unmistakable in a Scot, except in this case, because I'm staring at him, trying not to be obvious. Can't figure it out. I can't spot the Clark. I think I've got it, and maybe not. And somebody else sort of steps up in position. I'm going for some of the standard things that you use to gauge. We'll go over that another time. Anyway, it's not working. I'm not figuring it out. I can't spot the Scott. Then I look for the Clark, and I don't see an obvious Clark among them. Thinking that, well, with a group of four, we got to have at least a Scott, and got to have a Clark. Anyway, so finally I turned to Lisa, who's sort of smiling and watching the whole thing. I said, "Look, I can't pick them out. It's just not making sense to me right now. Let's give it a break." So we do that. We go back to our editing job. And the group of girls, go out, decide to eat lunch outside. So they go out to these tables. There are two tables outside. They're both round tables with chairs, at 12, 6, 3, and 9. That kind of thing. So they go out there and they sit down. And I stop paying attention to them, back to the book. We're working on that for a few minutes. For some reason I looked up, noticed that Sean had finished preparing their meals and was getting ready at the grill to take everything out to the outdoors table. So I look over there, and I just happen to see that they're posing for a picture. One of them is taking a picture of the other three, for the way they do. Ding, light bulb totally goes off, because I know the minute I see that one is taking pictures of the other three, who the person behind the camera is. And you all know that. The answer is yes, Clark. Clarks have that thing about not liking their picture taken, so they're always the one to be the person to hold the camera when everybody decides to get a group photo taken. And then the fun began there. Once the Clark fell into place, everything else just became very obvious. I hit myself on the side of the head figuratively. Why didn't I spot that before? Because now I'm looking at them. So there's the Clark with the camera, and I noticed that her sunglasses, in contrast to the other three, are like shocking pink. The ear things are shocking pink, totally in contrast with everything else the rest of them are wearing. So she takes the picture, and they sit down because Sean's approaching with the meals. And it just continues. I mean, the doctrine is just so amazing, because the three who aren't the Clark, they all sit down, and the Scott, who now I spot the Scott, she sits down, followed by the two people with her who I'm thinking are probably Rogers, because the Scott sits down at the table. The two Rogers sit next to her on either side, and the Clark's opposite the Scott. And the Clark, when she sits down, takes her shoes off, puts her feet up on her own chair, like in front of her, you know, so the knees are in front of her, and sits back in her chair, which is also angled away from the table. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It's great. So she's sitting there, and they're all waiting for the meals to be delivered, and I'm starting to laugh, because I mean, this is the doctrine, and it's just plain as fun all the time. And Lisa now, remember, she's sitting across from me now. She's collaborating on the book. I mentioned that, and she knows about the doctrine, picked it up very quickly, and sees practical application, but hasn't been exposed to this kind of a real-time thing before. And she's sort of smiling in that kind of a dawning recognition that I see often of people saying, holy smoke, they're right. They do that. Clarks do sit apart. I mean, the Clark, you looked out there and you knew, all right, the Clark is not a part of the group, but not a part of the group. The Scott was the center of the attention, and yet the Clark was across from the Scott. So Sean gets there with the meal, and puts them down in front of all four. Great. And they all turn to their meals, and they get out the utensils. You know, the utensils are always wrapped up in napkins and all. So I turn to Lisa at that point, and I say, I will bet you $1,000 that the Scott, that one there, will be the first person to eat. Nobody else will eat before she will. And she sort of looks a little startled, declines the bet, and we both watch. And, and it's pretty... It was fun, because the tension is building, because I'm thinking, shit, metaphorically speaking, I've got $1,000 bet on this Wakefield Doctrine thing. And like, they're all going for the utensils, and they're all unwrapping them. I'm thinking, shit, because somebody's going to get to the fork first. But they start to dawdle, the three, not the Scott. The Scott is, she's got her fork out, and the other ones start to play with the napkins, dawdle, do things that is slowing down the process, because they're waiting. And sure enough, the Scott takes the fork, sticks it in whatever the hell the food is, takes a bite, and sort of straightens her back out and looks around, and then they all dig in. I mean, geez, you can't make this kind of stuff up. I think I said to Sean at that point, if we didn't have a doctrine, it would have been all written for us that Saturday, this Saturday on the weekend. It was excellent. I mean, so that's the fun I had, and I've been doing this since the beginning, and it's just so much fun to see that for whatever reasons, people will act their part, especially in a social dynamic situation like that, you know, group, in a public function area. Definitely find some friends. We've said it in other posts. Go out to the local mall or someplace you can sit and watch other people interact. It's more fun than television. So that's the Wakefield Doctrine video midweek. I kind of like this version, so I'll bet you I put this up instead of the other one. 10-4.